Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, we are live at the Gallery Bar Book and Games on the campus of Ocean Casino Resort. Every Monday, they'll have World Series Game 3 if it's played, plus Monday Night Football tonight. Eagles, Flyers, NFL, college football. This is the place to be. I'll actually be here Friday night watching the Phillies Game 6 if necessary. Now, if the Phillies game gets canceled tonight, there's a possibility that there is no Phillies game on Friday. I just thought about that because I'm going to the Bare Naked Ladies concert here at Ocean Casino Resort. And if there's no game on Friday, see, I'm a little torn that the Game 6 is on the same night of the concert, so I don't know what to do.
Hey, that's it could be a win. Could be a win for MG.
Now
could be
I'm
a win
rooting
for the
for
Phils.
a rain out tonight. Now I am rooting for a rain out tonight. Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds, and the Inside the Birds podcast. What's going on, Mosher?
What's up, fellas? How's it doing? How's it going?
I just thought about that. I mean, I was like, if they cancel the game tonight, then they might not play. Now they'll be up on Thursday, up against the Eagles, and they move the off day to Friday. As I talked about it, I said, I got tickets to this Bare Naked Ladies concert Friday night. That would be great if they don't play on Friday night. So, have you heard anything
Good
there?
for you.
You're probably paying a little bit more attention than I am right now. Yeah. All right.
Maybe a little bit, little perhaps, but it also benefits the Phillies with their pitching. They could probably get Nola back on the hill. I assume that's a good thing before having to go Syndergaard Suarez, right? Wouldn't that help to get the extra day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
we'll see if they would make changes, but yes, having the extra day would help them out big time for the pitching. All right, Moshe, let's get into this Eagles win yesterday. I don't know, would you I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not a really good team, so would you characterize this as their best, most complete win of the season?
I still think the Vikings win felt more complete, but, if you want to argue with me, and I'll concede. I don't mind conceding. It was a very, very top-to-bottom type victory. I would say I think even in the Minnesota game, they might have gotten better special teams, which continues to be a little bit of a blemish on their perfect season. But other than that, pretty darn good both on both accounts.
Yeah, now, obviously, I thought the offense looked a little different yesterday. Less RPO stuff, a lot more taking shots down the field. And I guess this is them showing that they have another level, another layer in their offense.
It's kind of funny because, a lot of our focus during the bye week on Inside the Birds, talking with you guys, was if there's one thing they're going to self-scout and try to improve upon was taking more deep shots. They had done a really good job the first 3 games, but then the next 3, they went from average yards per pass from like 9.3 to 7, which is a pretty big drop. It was like tops in the league to middle. And then it seems like they came out against the Steelers and decided to do nothing but shot plays just to remind everybody that they can do it. And, oh, man, we can even do it with Zach Pascal, who was averaging like 4 yards a catch before that game. So it was pretty impressive.
So much talk has been about what A.J. Brown has added to the offense. But not only that, Moshe, what do you think A.J. Brown has done to advance Jalen Hurts as a player?
I think he's given Jalen listen, I think no matter what we do, when we're more confident, whether we're pitching, whether we're, doing whatever our business is, when you have confidence, you just feel like you're at the top of your game and you can excel, and it allows you to play comfortably or work comfortably. And I think what you saw is he threw into coverage to A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown came out with the football. And that allows Jalen Hurts to know that he can use all types of the field and throw the ball in many instances to A.J. Brown and make big connections. And that, for him, gives him the confidence to stick the foot in the ground, plant, throw. There's no hesitation. If you're a quarterback and you're not sure, you have trepidation, you can lose your mechanics. You can lose your ability to want to pull the trigger when you need to pull the trigger. So it does make you a better quarterback to have a guy where you're just very confident in letting loose, making the throw, that he's going to come down with it.
Talk about, as we're talking with Geoff Mosher and we're talking about Jalen Hurts, what about Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and the impact that they have had in Jalen Hurts' development? Because I look at the play calling, and Nick has done pretty much whatever it takes to win each individual game week to week. But Shane Steichen, I think, is someone that could get easily overlooked from the average fan. So just talk about those two guys and their impact to Jalen.
Yeah, I think Shane Steichen has really put his stamp on this team this year because we know he's been the play caller since day one. And I think the biggest thing we've seen in their play calling is what I would call sequencing, Ryan, where they're calling certain plays that are good for that moment, but they're better for the next moment, meaning we're going to show this formation again. They're going to think we're going to run the same play, but then we're going to actually do something differently out of that formation. They ran a lot of plays yesterday out of formations that they had run other plays from in the past, which is something you're supposed to do during the bye week, kind of make sure you're not stale. But they set up plays with, they can set up second and third down by what they call on first and second down really well. And I think the sequencing that you're seeing there has been phenomenal. I think you add Jeff Stoutland to the mix because he's the run game coordinator. You talk about Kevin Patullo, he's the pass game coordinator. But really, if Shane Steichen is calling the plays, I think that has been the most impressive part of their offense this year, separate from any individual play, just how they keep teams off balance. And when they need to go to certain avenues of their offense, they have no problem dialing it up and being successful doing it.
I want to look at the backfield with you for a second. I'm not going to bring up Alvin Kamara or anything. If you want to go that direction, that's cool. But Gainwell was someone that a lot of folks have discussed going into the season as someone that can take a jump in his development. Miles Sanders has been impressive. Do you factor in Miles and what he's been able to do better? Or is there something with Gainwell that is a little bit disappointing in your mind?
I think what's been disappointing this year is that, and again, this is pretty nitpicky, right, for a team that's 7-0. But
absolutely,
from a Gainwell standpoint, I think he's run better between the tackles than we ever thought, and certainly the book on him coming out of Memphis. But you really kind of get that from Miles Sanders. Like you when you have a third down back or a change up back, you want them to catch the ball well. You want to involve them in the passing game. You want them to be able to run the ball well, too, and pass protect so that when he's on the field, you're not telegraphing, oh, we're throwing it every time. And so far this year, for a guy who caught the ball so much at Memphis, they have not gotten him involved in the passing game. Now, I don't know if that's something that coaches just haven't been able to do because the ball's got to go to a lot of people or the quarterback doesn't throw it to him, but I do know that when you go back and look at some of the targets that he's had, I mean, he's had an interception because he dropped the ball that should have been caught. There was another one similar that was not caught that should have been. So it's very odd to have a third down back whose best attribute is running the ball between the tackles. That's sort of antithetical to what you want a third down back to do. But he's actually done that well this year. He's almost been sort of like their goal line. He started that last year, right? So I don't know. It's sort of like a wolf in sheep's clothes right now, but he's not supposed to because he was supposed to catch the ball well. But it just might be sort of that sophomore slump thing too. Like maybe he just needs more development. And so to your point about Kamara, I mean, maybe there's, we'll see what happens. Kamara is probably going to require a king's ransom, and I can't see the Eagles giving up. But we'll see. Like I know the Browns play tonight, and Kareem Hunt's been mentioned on the block, and if the Browns go to 2-7 and he's not going to be back next year, it would make sense for them to make a deal. We know the Eagles are aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was Albert Breer over the weekend who said that it's like draft day. I want my picks back. I mean, there's no way in any possibility at all that Howie Roseman would trade a first-round pick for Kamara, right?
Not unless he fell down the stairs and bumped his head and got really woozy. I mean, Kamara's a good player and all, but for a team that doesn't really put high positional value as far as first round picks or huge contract money on running backs, they would have drafted McCaffrey when he came out. Now you can look at that as a worthy type of deviation from what you do because he's not just a running back; he's a wide receiver, and of course after yesterday, I guess he's a quarterback now too. But so that would have been a little bit of a deviation from the norm, but as good of a weapon as Kamara is, because he catches the ball well too. I mean, there's the idea that he might be suspended next year. So I just don't think that the Eagles would do that unless they were stealing him,
I guess the report suggested if he gave back their pick that they gave him, which is right
That's
now
ludicrous.
top 5. But what if you gave him your pick? Would you do that?
You mean like a pick that's probably going to be somewhere between 28 and 32 in the first round?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. To me, there's nothing broken here. Like the Eagles'
I'm
running
not
game is the
disagreeing
best
with you.
in the
I'm
league.
just throwing another scenario out there. Like, hey, the report suggested if they gave them their pick back, and that sounds ridiculous because that pick could be top 10. But what if the Eagles were able to say, look, we'll give you a first, but we'll give you our first-round pick? You're still saying no. I agree with you on that, by the way.
Because, I mean, if you really –
I look at Miles Sanders. He's not coming back. He's not going to be in an Eagles jersey next year. So
Agreed.
That's a factor, right? I mean, what's Kamara's contract? Like, you want to make that position better, and you want to think about the future. I don't care what Miles Sanders does. I'm not re-signing him. So I think that should be in their mind.
Well, and how much, guys, Moshe, is the mindset around the league from some of these teams that let's go after it? The Rams did it last year. Right now, the 49ers seem to say, I don't care. Give me a player, a guy that I know can play over draft picks.
Right. No, I mean, listen, Ryan, I get that because he's a very talented player, and it would be like trying to upgrade for today but also tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just don't think that a guy that when you have 2 first-round picks and, you know, you're going to have a ton of guys on this roster who are going to be tough to retain. So to add a guy for tomorrow that's going to already have a pretty sizable cap number in the future who plays a position that you've already proven that you don't really use the same way as maybe like the Titans do. And especially when the value to get like a David Montgomery or a Kareem Hunt who can help you win today and probably be just as effective. And then you can figure out your running back situation going forward in the draft or with what you have. To me, it wouldn't, unless, again, if you can get him for a third, a fourth, something on the cheap, yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. A first-round pick probably wouldn't do it.
Eagles defensively, MG brought this up earlier, the fact that there's some fans out there complaining. But, I mean, they're always going to complain, blitz more. But I asked you about Shane Steichen and the team offensively. Let's get your thoughts on Jonathan Gannon and the team defensively after the big performance on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of funny to me that a guy like Javon Hargrave, who's kind of had a quiet first half compared to last year, you know, the team goes out and gets Robert Quinn. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, people are going to start losing snaps. Then you hear talk about NASCAR package again, where you can have Quinn and Hassan Reddick on the outside, kick Brandon Graham on the inside with Fletcher Cox. And it's like, oh, well, where does Javon? Oh, Javon's going to have to come off the field, or oh, someone else is going to have to come off the field. And then all of a sudden, it's like a race to the quarterback. But that's a good thing because iron sharpens iron, right? So I thought that defensively, I thought in the first half that the coverage was better than the pass rush. Everybody likes to say that your coverage will be good if you have a good pass rush, but I felt like the coverage helped the pass rush. It was very sticky in the first half. And a lot of that is because when you watch the Steelers, they amaze me with all the pass catching talent they have. Their coordinator really just doesn't do much other than try to run isolation routes for these guys instead of like high-low patterns, rub routes. Like, you have good pass-catching weapons. Like, try to, could you like use them in unison once to fool a defense? And they don't seem to do that. So that kind of tailors to what the Eagles like to do well. But again, I thought the coverage was outstanding. And then because of that and the Steelers falling into a hole in the second half, then the defensive linemen and the pass rushers were able to tee off.
Yeah.
By the way, T.J. Edwards played an incredible game that sort of got unnoticed, but he is a phenomenal player now.
Yeah, I think the linebackers, Moshe, I'm glad you brought them up because the linebackers for the Eagles were almost like the Phillies bullpen of the years past. They were just so inept that it was so hard to really win with those guys on the field, and that they held them back. I mean, the Eagles would play against other teams, and the other team would game plan for where's Singleton, where's Geary, and you can't win but the fact that the Eagles linebackers barely get mentioned anymore shows you how much that position has changed.
Yeah, Chase Claypool looked a whole lot better last time around when he played the Eagles, and he had that one-on-one with Nate Gary that Roethlisberger just checked into immediately and threw it. Remember that? He threw a touchdown right at Claypool against Nate Gary, and Gary wasn't even within 5 yards of him. So, yeah, now all of a sudden it's a big difference. And the people still ask, well, and this is a fair question. I don't know why the offensive players got pulled in the fourth quarter, but the defensive players had to play the entire fourth quarter. It seemed like good opportunity to get Nakobe Dean a few reps yesterday. Good opportunity to get Zach McPherson out on the perimeter and save your defense. That was a little strange to me. However, that being said, people still want to see Nakobe Dean on the field, and I keep saying, well, who are you taking off the field? Are you taking T.J. Edwards off the field, or are you taking Kaiser White off the field? Because it doesn't seem warranted right now.
Now, that was a question we asked at the trade deadline. Who's coming off the field if you bring someone in? Well, they brought Robert Quinn in. The way they used him yesterday, was that just hey, he just got here, or do you think that's the way they will use him most likely moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, he was used as an edge rusher, so I imagine that'll be who lines up over – I think he was over right tackle mostly when he rushed the passer yesterday, and I think that'll continue. What we have to see, Mike and Ryan, is sort of what is now the construct of this defensive line without Jordan Davis, specifically on first and second down. Do they still play the 5-1 because they don't have a natural nose tackle anymore who's just going to clog two gaps? So do they go back to what they did last year, which was sort of play a four-man front with Jannard Avery as the overhang guy, and then Jannard would come off the field, and they would just go to a four-man rush look in their nickel. So we'll have to see how Jonathan Gannon, especially on short rest here, I mean, he can call up Marvin Wilson, I guess, from the practice squad, but even Marvin Wilson ain't 350 pounds. So they really don't have a carbon copy there, and so they may have to do some things differently.
When you look at the defensive line and you look at Brandon Graham, I want to talk about BG, who's also expected to throw out the first pitch tonight. If the weather holds up, we shall see, along with, I think, Mike Schmidt, Dr. J, and Bernie Perrant. But that's neither here nor there. How much left in the tank does BG have? Like, is that a factor at all in Howie's mind when he brings in a guy like Robert Quinn, or is that just simply for depth, right?
Well, I think that I think when they brought in Robert Quinn, it gave him the opportunity to say, we just ride the hot hand. And if Robert Quinn's a great pass rusher. He's been a great pass rusher. And if he's got to play over guys like BG or Reddick or whatever, that's fine. They're just going to throw the four best pass rushers on the field. Or it might give Jonathan Gannon the want to maybe blitz a little bit more. I don't think Jonathan Gannon's going to turn into Todd Bowles overnight. I don't think he's going to do that. But he may feel more comfortable getting a five-man rush in a little bit more frequently with what he's doing. And that allows kind of everybody that they've got their best pass rushers to be on the field at the same time.
Geoff Mosher, Football at 4, Sports Bet. Now, if I were to say to you, John Gannon yesterday, you gave him a grade, what would you say?
I would give him – do I got a grade on a curve going up against the Steeler offense, or do I just grade on just the execution level?
Yeah, what kind of game did you think he called yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he called it was I gave him a B+.
Okay.
Only because, and I'm not trying to take away from him. I mean, he runs an execution-style defense, meaning he doesn't call a whole lot of elaborate blitzes. He calls what he calls. It's very similar, and it's up to the players to get the job done. And I thought, in general, you didn't see some kind of like innovative stunting or twisting. You didn't see any cover zero blitzes. You just saw the guys go out and execute against a bad offense. So that's why I would not.
I would agree to you. Did he have a great game? Not necessarily. Was he awful? I'm just still seeing a lot of people say that he's a problem. This team's not going to win anything with him as the coordinator. They're not aggressive enough. And I'm like, they give up 17 points a game. I don't know. Is he something that is going to hold them back ultimately?
I think, and this is part of the great part of our city is that we always hold people accountable as media, as fans, even if we are a little on the rough side, right? And I think there's a certain segment of people that are waiting for the Eagles to play like a really good offense with a really good quarterback. Maybe it's the Packers getting their act together. I mean, I don't know. There's really not too much on this schedule from here on out that's going to make you be like, wow, that's a tough one. Maybe Dak and the Cowboys round 2 in Dallas. And that game actually might not wind up meaning very much. So I hope it does, just for the competitive aspect of it. But
Most, and I know, and Ryan, I mean, they've already played Minnesota and Dallas. Those two teams are combined 12-3. They're the second and third team. They beat both of them. There's nobody out there. If you're already one of those fans that says they're not beating anybody, well, then nothing they do the rest of the way is going to convince you.
Yeah, exactly, because there's only like 4 teams that are good. You know, like there's the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, or whatever three, however you want to rank that 1, 2, 3. And then like 4 could be an argument between the Cowboys. If the Bengals win tonight, I think people will think that they're a little bit back because they've played well lately. And maybe the Ravens now they got Roquan Smith. I mean, it's sort of like you're all in that you're a pretty good team right there, but you got some doubts about you.
Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds. What is Inside the Birds? I know it's a Thursday game. Do you have any alterations to the schedule?
Probably, and I have, because I probably haven't had a good enough time to think about it. Okay. So we will have our pregame show though, 5:00 Friday night on our Inside the Birds
Thursday
YouTube,
night. Thursday night.
Platform. I'm sorry, Thursday night. Exactly, and then the postgame show will.
I mean, I'm not your scheduler, but even I knew that.
Yeah, I'm a little, the Phillies got going on. I'm just like, there's sports on every day. My head's spinning. It's Halloween. My kids want candy. What can I tell you?
Sixers tonight. Don't forget about them. Geoff Mosher, InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. All right, Mosher, take care, buddy.
All right, guys. Thanks, man.
All right, there's Geoff Mosher. Tomorrow, Adam Capel will be here, Inside the Birds Thursday night for the pregame show.